We're back. Kind of back because the one we posted was done before Christmas.
Yeah.
And it was just been a while. So this is our first one in a very long time.
Since like November, yeah.
Yeah. So we're here doing week 11 and 12 and we're back. And Christmas was good. That's kind of all that happened.
Yeah, pretty much.
New Year's bash was fun.
Merry Christmas. Merry 2024.
Yeah. Great. Good stuff. Hopefully, in this year. Like Philippians, in the continuation of this. And talking about joy. Because that's what a lot of week 11 and 12 is about. So, would you like to start?
Yeah. Of course, just what's stood out to me. I think that the biggest thing that kind of like not necessarily convicted me, but like low-key convicted me, and
low-key.
Yeah, and like kind of like what I registered and the thing like took away, and then also talked about in small group demos, was just how wishing you had more is breeding ground for hopelessness. And it actually was like really just like even struck me more because I'm reading this book right now, recommended by Keegan, called The Cry of the Soul, and it is about how your emotions are directly related to God and how like God's emotions and how like we incorrectly portray our emotions. And that day I was reading about despair and hopelessness. So it was like I read from my book what despair looks like in the world, and then I come here and Ron's telling us how much, wishing you had more and wishing for more just in general is breeding grounds for hopelessness. And so that just kind of like that kind of I don't know, that's my biggest takeaway. But also just because I can look at my life and think about how many times I've been like, oh, if only my life was this way instead, if only I had this, if only it had gone this way differently. And I mean, very little do I actually back it up. Very little do I go, I wish that I had this instead. But then I remembered, no, because then the Lord might have given me this opportunity, or no, because I wouldn't have been able to do this. And so very little do I back that up, but I will say I am but at fault for wishing I had more, wishing for a different situation.
Mm-hmm.
Which Ron tells us is breeding grounds for hopelessness. So, what about you?
Well, going off of that, like, I would have, when I was, I'll say baby Christian, I would always have thoughts of, like, I would get conflicted, like, battle of, like, I don't know. I didn't know which one was right and which one was wrong. And if it was wrong for me to think that certain way.
Which of what? Which was wrong?
So,
like, the way of the world?
Well, like, I had a thought, I was conflicted. Because there was a part of me that wished that I never had to experience everything that I had to experience. And, like, I grew up in church and that, like, I knew this stuff. And
had you believed earlier, it would have been different. And you never experienced it.
Yeah, and I never had to go through the addictions, the depression, all the lovely stuff that this world brings.
That the world gives us.
But then the other part of me was saying that I had to have all of this because all of that makes me who I am now. And all of that points to God's glory and Him bringing me out of the world. Mm-hmm. And so I was really conflicted because I didn't know if wishing that things were different and that I wasn't in this world for as long as I was and how deeply I was. And I didn't know if that was wrong for me to not wish that happened. And so I don't remember who I talked to, either Ron or Keegan. And they said that wishing for that isn't bad because you're basically wishing for heaven.
Mm-hmm.
Just like life without sin and peace and just glory with God. And so that made me feel better.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. Like when you just compare with other people or even just with yourself and you say, I wish I wasn't like this. I mean, like, there were times where, again, didn't grow up in the church necessarily. And so I have almost no verses memorized.
Yeah.
And so there's like kids who are way younger than me, around half my age,
Right.
who can
do all these
who
things.
know Bible way better than I do, who can memorize verses and remember them and like quote them.
Right.
And I can't do that. And so there's a lot of the comparing that can be done. But in Philippians 4:11 and 13, it talks a lot about joy. And the sum of it, of what Ron said, is start every day by praising him. Do it throughout the day and do it at night. Give him everything and give him credit for everything. Then you will be joyful. And so if you just give him thanks, then you're not comparing.
Mm-hmm.
And giving thanks is the opposite. This is the exact opposite of comparing and being jealous.
Yeah.
Because if you give thanks, if I go, man, I really wish I had your shoes.
I mean,
Right
cool
now.
Shoes.
Yeah, those are awesome shoes. Those are awesome
who wouldn't
fuzzy
want
socks. I wish I had those.
Not everyone can be me.
No. But if I go, man, I'm grateful for these shoes right here. Look at these shoes. They're awesome shoes. They fit what I need. And these socks are Jurassic Park socks. They're not fuzzy, but they get the job done. And
That's beautiful.
yeah, and you just give God for glory and the things that you have. And like, yes, shoes and socks is a stupid example. But in other words, like when you're suffering and you go, God, thank you. That's the hardest part. When you're suffering
Being
and going
content in your
through,
situation.
yeah, when you're going through caca, and you say, God, thank you.
Yeah. That's very true.
Mm-hmm.
And to that, I mean, I see that a lot in new Christians. I see it in myself when I was a new Christian. I see it in my friends who are new Christians. I see it in people who come to the church that are new Christians. I think a huge stumbling block is comparison, because you come to church and you're like, these kids read their Bible every day and they memorize these verses and they know so much, they know all of the history and they know so much and they can answer every VBS question, but like I know nothing and I'm not as good and I'm never going to be that. And that's a huge stumbling block, because everybody's different in their faith and everybody grows at a different rate. And that's it makes me so angry when people are like, I can't come to youth group because I just don't feel like I belong, I don't know as much, or I just don't feel like I can get to where you are, I'm too far gone. Like, no, everybody's at a different rate. Nobody has the same faith as anybody. And stop, it's stupid. Like, we're all gonna get there. And it's just so aggravating, because it's just such a falsehood. It's something the devil tells us, and it just makes me so angry.
Mm-hmm.
But where was I going with this? There was something else I was gonna say. Wishing you had more, or a different situation. Oh, okay. And I was reading the book, The Cry of the Soul, which is awesome. The one that I told you about. It's awesome. It's so good. I think I've already told you about it before. By Dan Allender and something Tremper.
Yeah.
Trepman. Yeah.
Recommended by Keegan.
Recommended by Keegan. Recommended by Vanessa too. Recommended by me. Recommended by then, I don't even know who was reading it now, because I told them to and thinks it's awesome. Like, so many people, like, you should just read it. And no, it's genuinely so good, and I can't put it down. Okay, anyway, I was reading on hopelessness and despair, and it was just like, telling you, people who fall into hopelessness, which is all of us, we are all falling into despair and hopelessness, like, maybe not on a daily basis, but on a genuine basis. And it's just like, people who fall into hopelessness forget what God has done for them in the past. Yep. And you have to remember when you are hopeless and when you are in despair, and when you don't think you're being a light to the world, you have to remember what God did for you in the past, and remember that He's faithful. And just because you can't see it right now doesn't mean He's not. And so that was just a huge thing for me. And something else that I see a lot, and something else that I saw in myself as a new believer, on an opposite note, is so many times people come to church and they're like, I wish I didn't have to leave this behind. I wish I didn't have to, like I see in our generation, like as seniors, I wish I didn't have to leave behind partying. I wish I didn't have to leave behind, like, all these things. I wish I didn't have to leave behind gossiping. I wish I didn't have to leave behind, like, disobeying my parents. I just want to do what I want to do. And, like, I wish I could. You wouldn't believe how many people I know that are like, I used to steal this from the cafeteria all the time. I used to go in, I used to get my Kickstart and this and this and this. I'd be like, no, stop doing that. Stop stealing from the school. And, like, how many people? And they're like, I just don't want to be behind stealing. And, like, okay, some of these things I can get, like, a high schooler not wanting to leave behind partying. It's the way of the world. I understand it. But, like, people just don't understand the way of the Jesus is so much better. And it's just...
Yep.
Wishing you had more. Wishing you had sin. Sin. Partying. Drinking. Stealing.
Yeah.
Gossiping. Sin is bringing you up for hopelessness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And on a happier note, I have a question for you. Bringing it back to the shoes and socks.
All right.
Okay.
Shoes and socks.
How can you live life to be more content? How can you live life to be happy with what you have and to be happy with the Jesus way and not the way of the world? So that we avoid falling into this disparity of wanting more that we don't need.
Do you have an answer?
I do.
Okay.
If you would like me to give my answer so you can
I
think.
might need some time to think.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is something that I think about a lot just because of my life. And I know that a lot of people have heard my testimony and are kind of familiar with my family situation. But being so young and having to deal with some really hard things has made me happy with very little. Wait, I don't think I said that right. I can be given very little and be happy, is what I mean. I don't know if that's how it came across. But I have learned to be very thankful for just a little bit. Because it's like, sometimes I have like really hard days. And it's like, and this is kind of the whole thing with looking like at despair and looking at the past and how God's been faithful in the past. Sometimes like I've had really hard days or like even like really hard months where just like every day is just like punch in the face, just like, oh my gosh, why does this keep happening over and over and over and over again? And it's like I'm like never coming up for air. Like I just need to not have a challenge for this moment. And like over time I've gotten to be like, oh, 2 hard things happened to me this week? Wow, what a good week. like that was really like, thank you, God.
It's light work.
Yeah, this is light work. Like, wow, only one person like said this thing to me this week. This is incredible. I'm going from constant negativity to like, wow, here's some like 2 negative situations. I can deal with this. And so it's like, I've learned to be content when, like nothing is happening in my life. I don't need good things to happen to me to be content. Because I've come from a situation where bad things were always happening to me, that when bad things aren't happening to me, I'm like, wow, like, oh my gosh, life is beautiful. I don't have all of these, challenges, and I can just look at life. I don't need to be on top of the world right now to see that what I have is awesome. And so just with that, learning, like, having to lower my standards almost, I've learned to be content with littler, but also not to, like, dish on all the negativity that I faced and, like, hardships, because those hardships also have built me up incredibly. So I also have this new mindset that I can look at what I've dealt with, the cards I've been dealt with, and be happy with what I have, because it's like, okay, this sucked, but this is going to help me. This is going to equip me. So.
Like Paul, when he said, I know what it is to be in need. I know what it is to be in want, to be hungry, to be satisfied. Because of this, I can do all this.
Right.
Because of Christ.
Right.
Yeah. And a little different note. I'll say fewer people know me, and people know what I've been through. And so the other suffering in the past and everything, all the garbage, it gives me, always a constant reminder of what God has done. And it's one of the reasons why I love the book of Deuteronomy so much. And just one small reason is because Moses is telling the Israelites as they move on to the promised land, or another way to think about it is our new life in Christ. He's saying, don't forget about Egypt. Remember Egypt. And remember everything that God has done to bring you out of your old way and to bring you into your new one. And so that's what the Passover is for. It's a holiday that you remember everything that God has done so you don't forget. Even when your situations are crappy, or if you have one bad thing or you have a bad thing every day of the week, you can remember that, okay, God brought me out of all of this. And I'll say recently with the one thing that I've had, that I've shared before in previous episodes, it's a whole different new version of bad. It was just everything that I once knew, add some more stuff in it, stir the pot, and make it worse in so many different ways. And so one thing that I told myself was, because it wasn't something that happened like present. It was something that happened before, that over time I realized how truly awful it was. And so a part of me was like, I don't understand why I'm having this realization now. And then I remembered that God says that He'll never give us something that is too big to bear. He won't tempt us or allow us to be tempted or tested more than we can bear. And He'll always provide a way out. So I came to realize that the reason I didn't know about it then was because if I truly knew how bad it was, there's a good chance I would not have been able to handle it. And so years down the line, I can handle it now as a more mature, founded Christian. And because I know I can now handle this, it's a huge burden. But because I know that I'm at the point now where I can handle this and can get through this, I'm content. Because I know God has gone before me. He's won the victory. He's won the battle. And all I have to do is follow Him wholeheartedly. And that helps me a lot of contentness, and just reminding myself that God won't allow me to have something that I won't be able to bear or understand or keep going with. He's not going to give me an obstacle that He won't allow me to get through. And that allows me to be extremely content and joyful, because I know that no matter how garbage my situation is at the moment, that it'll either get better or I can handle it. If it never gets better, I know I can handle it. And that gives me huge joy. So.
Well, and I think something too that's important to note is that we have different standards than God. So it's like people will say, God doesn't give you more than you can handle, which is true. That is true. God doesn't give you more than you can handle. But what I think I can handle is different than what God knows I can handle. And so it's like, you can tell yourself, like, oh, this isn't too much for me because, you know, God wouldn't give me more than I can handle, but like, no more than this. But like, really, like, no. Like, you could think that you have too much to handle and that God's like giving you too much and you need to drop something, but like, you know, some of the time it's not, because you know, God has different standards. And I see that, oh gosh, where's the other example of that I see? There's another one, now I'm forgetting it. I think it's oh, I don't remember. Next thing. Unless you have another thing to talk about.
All right, next thing. One thing Ron said that was good, which goes into being content, is our worth is found in our relationship with Christ, not our trials or situation, which allows us to be content and joyful, because, like you said, if we have something and we go, I can't do this, God, what are you doing?
Yeah.
This is,
come
on, dude.
Only God knows what you can handle. Be quiet. Sit down.
So, and we've all had the moments where you go, are you kidding me? I can't do this.
Yeah.
And that's not who we are. That's not, it's easy to have your sin identify you. Like, for me, addiction. That's a very easy one to fall into.
Right.
And, like, this is such a good reminder that our relationship with Christ defines us, not what we've been through or what we will go through. Because the relationship with Christ makes us clean, and we get what he deserved. And that's more than any trial or situation that we're going through. So I like that. That was really, really good.
Yeah. So I kind of want to bridge now into the next week, because there's a lot there.
There is.
That I want to dwell on. And I'm going to do that. I'm going to make the connection. Before I do so, I need to introduce who Timothy is, because I am really sad to admit, or not sad, but I was like ashamed to admit, even after hearing Ron speak, I still did not see the connection between Paul and Timothy. And I admitted that to my small group, and neither did my small group. And we had to have our small group leader explain. So I'm just going to put it out there for all you youngins watching, because, you know, this was...
or any other senior girls.
That might not know who Timothy is, because there was a lot in my small group. I would say probably like 9 out of 10. So just for like a disclaimer, because, you know, like, it's okay, like, we all need it. Okay, Timothy is not actually Paul's son. Ron kept saying that. Timothy is not Paul's son, but it was like someone that he discipled to. So like Timothy was under Paul's discipleship, and Paul wrote a letter to Timothy. Timothy, 1st and 2nd Timothy, is not written by Timothy. It is the letter that Paul wrote to Timothy. There you go. Timothy Timothy is not Paul's actual son.
No.
It is someone who's discipled by Paul. And no, Timothy is not actually Timothy speaking. It is a letter to Timothy.
Ron did say that.
He said all of that?
He said that Timothy is Paul's spiritual son.
Spiritual son, yes.
And they're like, it is not the same thing.
Yeah, like, no, like under his discipleship?
Yeah, no, that's the same thing.
That's
so,
what, that's what I just said. Anyways, okay. So, now you all know. There's a little bit of history.
You did it already.
Okay. Now, to bridge. So, Ron touched, when we were talking about Philippians 2:14-18, he touched on just that unity in the church is important. And then, we go to Philippians 2:19-24, which is where Timothy comes in, and he's writing to Timothy, and you see, you know, for they all seek their own interests, not those of Jesus, but, you know, Timothy's proven with how as a son, with a father, he served you within the gospel. And it's talking about Timothy and how much Paul cared for him. Which, first of all, before we get into community, because that's going to take up the bulk of this week, but I was talking about how important community is, because it's so important. I want to bring up this conversation I had with a friend from my small group, and just, like, think about how many people in your life would be in jail and still think, like, to care enough about you to write you a letter and, like, just, like, care for you that much to be, like, thinking not only of yourself in jail, but thinking of this person. How many people in your life can you say would sit in jail and not be concerned about themselves, but would be writing you a letter to help you better your welfare? Not about them, not about your bail, not about what they need, not about anything else about their interests, but write you a letter about you and your spiritual health and how you can be better and how you can get, like, grow. And that was just, like, really eye-opening because, like, examine, first of all, if there's not that many people in your life that you could say would do that, you need to find some Christian friends. Because we all have this little, balance.
Or more mature Christian friends.
School Christian friends, school friends, Christian friends.
Yeah.
You need to find some friends that are gonna, like that's important. And, I mean, like, I'm thinking and I'm like, wow, like, that is so hard to think about because it's like, I would hope somebody would do that for me. I would hope I would do that for somebody else. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, if I'm in that situation, I would like to say that I would be writing my friends all these letters, but you never know until you're put in that place. So it's like, that was just really eye-opening to me. Think and examine how many of your friends would write you that letter. And then if you don't think about very many of them, maybe you need some new friends. I'm just going to say that. Anyway. Community. What stood out to you most, Jack?
Well, one question, or maybe not question. What I liked was, going off of what you said with Paul being in jail.
Okay.
Because it's with community.
Right.
Paul was clearly suffering in prison,
mm-hmm.
as one would in a Roman prison. But he wrote a letter of the things that would currently would affect the Philippian church. It wasn't like old stuff, it was current stuff that they're
mm-hmm.
going through now. That means, one way or another, the Philippian church communicated with Paul, one way or another,
mm-hmm.
everything that was going on in their church. So, again, community goes both ways. Let's say you're in jail. Let's say you're in jail and you are that person who would write the letter.
Mm-hmm.
But nobody's saying what's going on. You can't write the letter. Because there's no back and forth.
Yeah.
Just because Paul was suffering, that didn't stop either the church in Philippi to give him the information,
mm-hmm.
or somebody going back and forth to give him the information. It was known that Paul cared. And it didn't matter what situation he was going through, people knew that he would care and advance the gospel. And so, that needs to be made known. And like,
he didn't end his mission there.
No, just because he was suffering, he didn't stop caring for other people.
Right. And he wasn't alone.
Yeah.
And people didn't just give up because the leader of their mission had been put in jail.
Yeah, and it's, at least it seems so much easier to go to somebody with your problems when they're not also suffering.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to do it, because if they care, they'll care about you.
Mm-hmm.
And you find joy out of taking care of others before taking care of yourself. And so, even when somebody is suffering in our community, in our friendship, or whatever, if we're going through something, we should also talk to them, if we have a strong enough relationship with them. And so, I think that's super important, because you gotta have the both ways,
mm-hmm.
right? And so, if I was in jail, I'm pretty positive that I would write the letter. But I don't know how many people would still... There would be a good amount of people who would still come to me with stuff and say, even though I'm struggling, I would pour into them.
Yeah.
And so, because I have done that. I've been down, and I'm still there for other people. And so, yeah, I don't know. I think that's interesting that, like, it's got to go both ways. You can't be Paul without your people.
Mm-hmm. That's true. That's a good point. Okay. Something else that was really important to me. Let's see. Let's look at my notes. You just talked about how you gotta put other people first. Serve others before yourself. That's how you find joy. Oh, okay, I know. Something that I see is discouraging in some Christians who are discipling other people, and something that kind of one of my favorite quotes, which is by Vanessa, actually. I have a few. I have like 3 that I love, 3 quotes. And one of them is, you don't know who God is going to affect through you. And one of the things that Ron said that I kind of took away was how God works in others' lives is not for me to know, but I'm still called to be his hands and feet. So it's really hard because it's like you put so much time into discipling somebody, and sometimes you don't get to see the results or like the fruit of your labor. And you see that with Paul, especially writing to Timothy. He's in jail. He's not going to see the fruit of his labors unless he gets a letter about it. Like, that's not. And even if he does, who even knows how long it took for them to get letters back and forth in those days?
Yeah.
And so it's like, you know, you can put all this work in, and sometimes there's no fruit, but sometimes there is. And sometimes you see it, and sometimes you don't. And it's like, the fact of the matter is, I could share the gospel with somebody right now, and they could look me in the face. And this has happened to me before. I have been in New Orleans, and this is an angering story for me. There was this, I was with these girls, and they were going into 6th grade. I was with these 2 girls that really loved me, and you know, they were cute little girls, and yeah. But one of these girls, one of them was very kind. The other one was not kind. She was very aggressive. And I just remember they both fought with these boys because they were cousins. You know, one boy bullied her cousin, and she got to defend her cousin, and her New Orleans drama. I don't know. And so, you know, she was fighting with this boy, and I took her to the bathroom because I could tell she was very visibly upset. So I was like, let's go talk. Let's go for a walk. Let's go to the bathroom. And we're talking, and you know, I'm trying to like use it as an opportunity to like share the word with her and be like, okay, so you know, what would Jesus do in your situation? You're sitting here telling me you want to stab him with a pencil? God would not do that. Let me tell you. You know, maybe we should just show him some love back. Maybe we should just soften his heart a little bit, you know, soften our own hearts so that he can, you know, receive that. Maybe like Jesus would not do this. Jesus wouldn't stab people with a pencil, okay? Jesus would,
for the reason that they're mad.
Yeah.
He did make a whip.
Okay.
Just saying.
Anyways, and so, you know, I'm sharing the gospel with her, and she looks me in the face, and she goes, or in the eyes, and she goes, the whole time you were talking, I was thinking about smashing his head on the table. I was like, oh, there goes 10 minutes of my life. And I think I was just like, awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And we walked back, and I was like, but for all I know, that conversation, you know, that she could have taken it home, she could still be thinking about it. Because you know how they are. They're like, put on a face, I gotta be cool, I gotta be tough. Nothing matters to me, my heart is dark. That's how they like to put on a face. But for all I know, maybe she really did think about smashing his head into the table the whole time. I don't know. She could have been. I'm not inside her head. But there's a potential that she took that home, and she still thinks about it, and maybe, you know, she's gotten a faith now from that conversation. Maybe she's been nice to one person since. So it's like, yeah, I sat there and I wasted so much time and I felt super defeated. But what if it wasn't such a waste of time? What if actually what I was saying she still thinks about, and, you know, maybe it's helped her grow in a faith life. Who knows? You don't know. You don't know the fruit of your labor, and sometimes you have to, like, pour into other people and not see the fruit of it. But I think that's just really important to think about, because people can get so discouraged. But if we were backing down from the truth, telling the truth to other people, there's potential nobody else is going to tell that person the truth again. and there's a potential that they might take that truth home and it might change their life. But for all you know, it didn't do anything. But it's okay, because you don't need to know, because we're only called to be the hands and feet of Jesus. We don't need to see what God did in their life. Is it awesome to see what God did in their life? Yeah. But that's not what we're called to do. We're not called to be like, share truth with this person and this will happen. Because if God told us, you're going to go share truth with that person and they're going to ignore you and spit in your face and then go tell the whole world how you're just a weird Bible freak. Well, then obviously I'm going to be like, okay, then I'm not going to talk to them. Duh. Like, who do you think I am? But it's like, we're not really called to know. We just kind of got to do it.
There's another flip side of it is like, you pour into somebody for the example of like producing fruit. You water the plant, you take care of the plant, take care of the seed, protect the seed, you do everything. The tree starts to grow, you can see it grow, but then somebody else comes and takes the fruit and then does the last part. And
Wait. Okay, you lost me when somebody else took the fruit.
Yeah, okay.
Like, they disciple somebody else or somebody, like, brings them down.
They go from, you're pouring into that person, you're having the hard conversations, you're having the late nights, you're praying for them, and then just kind of out of nowhere, they switched and talked to somebody else. They're still getting brought up and everything, but
you put in the labor, somebody else gets the fruit.
They're kind of done with you, yeah.
Yeah.
That one sucks
That sucks.
And it's all selfish reasons as to why
it's
sucks.
so selfish, but... Okay, if you think about it, Jack, me and you, let's say we're discipling somebody and that happens. Let's say I'm discipling somebody and they walk away and they ignore me. Or I'm discipling somebody and, I get them to where they are and they come to youth group and they find another disciple and they ditch me.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason I would be mad is because of my own pride.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I got him there. I planted the seed. I did what God calls me to do. It's not for me to be mad that somebody else is not doing what they're called to do.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, if I'm mad, I need to examine my own heart, because it's like, why am I mad that somebody else is coming and taking the fruit of my labor?
Yep.
In this situation, Why am I mad that somebody else is taking the person I've discipled and discipled them? Well, it's my own pride. And it's because I'm not giving the glory to God in this situation. I'm taking my discipleship to them, and I'm taking it like, oh, I did that. That's my glory. I put Jesus in them. No, you didn't. Jesus is in you, and then he put himself into that person, put himself into him or her. That's God's glory. That's not your glory.
Yeah.
And if somebody else is doing that, they're just doing what they're called to do.
Mm-hmm.
They're giving the glory to God. And so for me to be mad that somebody else would be discipling them because, or not mad, but like disappointed, sad, defeated, whatever, label whatever emotion, that's your own pride, because it's like, at that point, it's like, why can't you just glorify that, they're still being brought up in Christ? And I'm a total hypocrite saying this, because
yeah, you know the truth, but you live out the opposite.
I know the truth, but I'm still sinful, and I still want that glory. But it's not mine to take, so. And
then you humble yourself and you go, I want it, but then you go, wait a minute, I do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know, like, it's all selfish, but it's all selfish and prideful and dumb. But it's real for a lot of people, at least myself and Grace.
Yeah.
So.
Yup.
Yeah. So, here's this question.
Mm-hmm.
How important has community been to you?
Oh
and
my
what
God.
has community
That's such a good question.
helped you with?
Okay, community has literally, like, I am going to study the Bible and make it my career because of community.
Mm-hmm.
Like, community, like, people don't understand because the world is so lonely, and people say they're not lonely, but you're lonely if you don't have Jesus, and that's end of the story. If you don't have Jesus, you are lonely. I'm sorry. Like, you are. Like, don't even try to say you're not. No, I don't care what your friends say at school. I don't care what your mom says. I don't care what video game. Like, no. If you don't have Jesus, you are lonely. And I have seen that firsthand, because I lived a life where I thought I didn't need Jesus up until, like 7th grade? And, oh my goodness, I came here, and it was like, the community was so enveloping, and like oh my goodness. I used to go to Willow Creek. I did not like the youth program in comparison to EFCCL's. I came here, I witnessed the youth program, I witnessed the community, and it made me, as an 8th grader, want to work in youth ministry. My motives and my end goal have changed as I've matured in my faith. But as a 7th grader, seeing how this place has changed my life, I wanted to work in youth ministry because I was like, oh my gosh, the difference in the youth communities has changed my life. I want to do that for somebody else. So my community is so important to me. I don't even really speak to people at my school, which is not good. So okay, wait, that's an understatement. I do speak to people at my school and in my classes. You won't ever catch me outside of school with people that are not in my small group. Some of my small group people are at my school. Because it's like, that community is what is important to me. That community has shaped me. I'll share the gospel with anybody at school who needs to hear it. If somebody wants to FaceTime me after school and be like, what is youth group? Of course I'll talk to you. But if you're going to try and call me and talk about all these stupid things, like, it's not important. It's not important. It's a waste of my time. I'm going to go talk to my community about what is meaningful. And so that is what is important. And so, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm making this way too long of an answer, but my community has shaped me so much. And like, then going into freshman year with this solid community now, a solid group of friends, going to New Orleans and realizing, maybe I don't just want to work in youth ministry. Maybe I want to work in the mission field. And then going again and being like, okay, I definitely want to work in the mission field. I don't know where, I don't know how, I don't know when. That's on God's time, but I know I want to go in the mission field, and I know I want to go to youth ministry after that. And then going into junior year and being like, okay, this Bible is actually pretty interesting. Maybe I don't just want to study youth ministry. Maybe I want to study theology. And, like, that would have never happened without community. Like, and so I remember, too, on the retreat one time, who preached on the summer retreat this past summer? Was it Ron the whole time? Or was it Isaiah? I think it was Isaiah. I'm going to give credit to Isaiah, to the same family. They can share it. And he said something. And Isaiah says a lot of things. I love Isaiah speaking. He actually is the second person in my top 3 quotes. But he was talking about how the community of church is an orchestra. And we all bring different parts. One person's the flute, one person's the tuba, one person's the drums. We all bring different things, and it's beautiful together. And I was thinking about it, and I was thinking about my small group, and I wrote down my small group orchestra. This person's the best at listening. This person's the best at hospitality. This person's the most wise. This person is the best at making other people feel comfortable. This person is most hospitable. And like, all of these things that, like, you can look at one person in my small group and be like, yes, she is that, and she does it better than anyone else in my small group. And for every person. And it was like, that community is so important because we all better each other. We're all what each other's not. I can look at my best friend and be like, she's 10 times more patient than me. I need that. But I can also look at my best friend and be like, yeah, I'm a little bit more outgoing than her. She could use some more words. And so it's like, we all build each other. We all better each other. And so that was a really long answer. But at the end of the day, community is so important. And it just is so good for building you up and making you better and feeding you in a way that people that don't believe in Christ cannot. Because if you are hanging out with people that do not have the same values as you, your values are going to change. And I've seen that be the biggest stumbling block in people in high school that are new Christians but do not have friends that are Christians because they don't want to share their faith because they're scared of being judged. That's the biggest thing. What is your answer?
You're fired up.
You're
like summer tent Jay.
I don't even know what that is.
When we're in the summer in the tent,
Oh,
Jay always gets fired up.
Is it really?
He does.
I never noticed.
It's pretty funny. It's always really good. I'll say community is very interesting for me. My community was very big at a time. I'll say beginning of high school was very big. Around junior year, it became almost, well, in between sophomore, junior year, it became almost no one, like not many people at
Your
all.
small group?
Fewer than that. Just a handful of people.
Right, because I do remember there was a huge divot.
Yep.
And now you guys are huge.
Yeah, I just stopped sharing completely. I used to be really like vulnerable in my answers and everything. And then the last challenge, what was that?
2022?
2022, we had challenge. And I wanted to get back into sharing and being vulnerable, and I did. And it didn't go the way I wanted it to go. And so, blocked it off again. And so it's taken me a very long time to first share again in small group, and then share again outside of small group, and then sharing it wouldn't even be personal things. It would just kind of be answers. I didn't, build myself up to the point of doing that. But now I'm at the point where I don't. My community is broken up into like two different areas, I guess. There's like my family, which it's my Christian family, my family that's been given to me by the blood of Christ. And so all the people that God has put into my life, who I trust and I share my life with, that's my people. That's my people. I'll do anything for those people. So that's like my main community. And then there's like another ring of the people that I have influence with. And so it's not as strong as a community, but it's a very important one, because one, way bigger range of people, and two, if I do something wrong to those people, there's a way better chance that they're gonna think about me worse or write me off than the people who are my people.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of broken up in two ways. And so I really only share with the people who are in my family, my Christian family. And with those people, like, I'll share certain things with certain people. If like, there's some things I'll tell you that I won't tell other people. There's some things I'll tell Nick that I won't tell you. There's some things I'll tell Sydney that I won't tell Miles. There's, it goes on a lot, and that's because whole different reasons. But community is very good, and it's awesome for me to see the impact that I've had in other people's community. Like there's times where, I guess, like track, it's not my Christian community, but that's the community that I enjoy so much. I'll say that is my most fun community. And so, like, that is huge, because I not only want my community to be like that, but I want them to be a part of my community. And the way I do that is, I can be a part of their community, but if I want it to go deeper, they need to believe what I believe. Or, yeah. And so we can have
surface level.
Yeah, and like you said, the outside community won't be as strong as your small group. but you could make it that strong.
Yeah, sure.
And so, like, we have lifting at 4. School gets out at 3, so I just wait at school for an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was talking with one kid, and we were talking, and it got on to a topic that didn't start as serious, and then it moved on into a extremely serious conversation that pivoted into God. And huge. And that wouldn't happen if I didn't allow myself to be a vessel
Mm-hmm.
for God and say, all right, I know I have my community. It's time that other people have that same community too. Yeah, and so it may not be your community, but you have an impact on every community,
Mm-hmm.
whether you're a part of it or not.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, you always got to be on your best and pouring into other communities like Paul is, whether you start them or not. So, yeah, communities is good. Yeah. Communities is good.
I agree. Anything else you want to add about community?
There was one thing Ron said about Paul and what gives him joy with community. It's what gives Paul joy is to hear how God moves. We don't know how, but we'll see it and we'll hear about it. I just thought that was really good.
I think that's actually where I got my point.
Yeah. I thought that was so good. 'Cause like we're going away to college.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going away.
Good rate. I'm just kidding.
Get out of your community. We just talked about how great it is, and now
And now I want to do it. Hey, my
Screw
community
you.
is my roommate next year, so
there you go.
I'm not leaving mine.
There you go. But like, hopefully, as we all like go out into different areas and parts of the country, like, we're not together, but hopefully we can still hear about what God's doing.
Mm-hmm.
And like at Moody, hopefully you guys will tell me what's going on there and how God is moving. And then at Wesleyan, I'll do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a huge encourager because you can tell where God is moving and how he's moving. And like, I don't know, that is a huge thing for me. And especially because I guess the things I'm leaving behind here and the people and the relationships, I can't directly pour into them. And so that's probably the hardest thing for me with going away is that I can't pour into the same people anymore. Or I can, it's just going to have to look different. It won't be as easy. And so I'll be like 2.5 hours away, but God will still be moving here.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to hear about that so I can be encouraged and to be joyful. And so even if something terrible happens at college and like I'm not doing good, I'll hear about what's going on with you guys or with the youth ministry, and I'll know that God is still moving and he's doing all these great things, and that when I come back I'll be able to see them and witness them. And so that gives me so much joy, just like it did Paul. And that's the kind of joy that it won't let you down, because it'll always be there. It's not like God's going to stop moving one day and go, nope, I'm done with you guys.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's
good. That's a good thing to bring up, because it's not like the story ends with you. So.
Nope.
And then, I think my last thing, if you don't have anything else to add, we don't need to discuss this because we've talked about this in all the other episodes, and if you want to hear more about this, you can just go listen to other episodes, because this is something Ron always talks about, And so something I just kind of want to end with is the question, what do people see when they are around you or when they look at you?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's a really vital thing and a huge testament to your faith. And like I said, we don't really need to indulge in that because we've had a whole podcast episode about this. Go listen to like episode, was it 2? 1?
It's been in every
It's in, like,
single
all
way,
episodes.
just asked in a
If
different
you want to
way.
hear more about why it is so important how people see you, we'll listen to the other episodes because it's going to take a lot of time. But yes, to end, think about what people think about and what they see when they're around you, because that's important and that reflects your relationship with Christ.
Mm-hmm.
So, key points: be a light, be content, be in community, and Timothy is not Paul's son.
No.
He's not.
He is not.
So with that,
I will say the way Ron asked the question, what are people getting from you? He asked if you guys want to think about this, because it's a very good way. He said, what are people around you learning?
what do people see when they look at your Instagram? What do people see when you have a conversation?
Mm-hmm.
When people learn about your life, what do they learn?
When people view your habits,
What are your habits?
what are they? Like what?
When people ask you what kind of music you listen to, what kind of music is it?
Yeah.
When people ask you your favorite TV show, what TV show is it?
Mm-hmm. What? It's such a good question. What are people around you learning? What are you teaching them? Whether you're speaking to them or they're just observing you.
Yeah.
It's good.
Are you living what you speak?
Yeah.
Look into it. Examine your heart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So with that, Jack, anything you'd like to add?
Not
As
for
we
me.
close?
Not from me.
Well, also finally, people can tell when you're being fake.
It's true.
So when people look at you, and if you are trying to give off the Lord when they're learning from you, and you're faking it, they will know. People know. People know when you're
Especially
fake.
a mature Christian.
Oh my gosh.
They will be
yes.
able to tell. Yeah.
All those cross-chain necklaces and Bible verses in the bio. Please. I can tell if you're a Christian by looking at your actions.
Yep.
So, would you like to pray for us, Jack?
I would love to. God, thank you that Grace and I can meet and do life together. Talk about what you are putting on our hearts and our minds, that you want us to not only learn but share with the people that we have influence with, in the many ways that you give it to us. And God, I ask that you give us the strength and the courage and the obedience and the faith to be your vessel and to shine a light and to be content and to pour into others properly. In Jesus' name, amen. If you guys go here, the retreat sign up is up.
Come on the retreat. Do it.
It's going to be good. The speaker is good. I had a little bit of juicy insight from Ron.
Don't tell me.
I
wanna
won't.
be surprised.
But I know what's going to be talked about, and it's a good one to end our
It's just so much
youth
fun.
group career on. This is going to be.
I'm probably gonna cry.
This is going to be eye-opening, and it will make faith real for a lot of people who are on the edge.
I hope that you're true. That's true. I hope
Yeah.
that is true.
If you have ears that will hear and eyes to see, this will be a good retreat for you. Unless your heart is hard.
Which is a really hard situation to be in.
It is, yeah.
So.
Yeah, so I think that's all the news stuff that's coming.
Come on retreat.
Come on the retreat. If you want to, there's challenge. But that's kind
Go
of,
to challenge 2.
that's kind of, I don't know if that's filled up yet. You might only have a week.
Oh wait, actually it is already filled up.
It's already filled up, never mind.
Yeah, Ron actually did
Yeah.
say that there's too many people for the seats
Sorry.
on the bus.
Oops.
But you can go on a wait list.
Wait list.
Got a few months.
Because I also heard there may be something else that's getting figured out.
Oh, interesting.
It's very fun.
Very
And there's mission trips. NOLA, we talked about. BC,
yeah.
We didn't talk about. But yeah, that's about it.
Decide if you want to go, because you gotta sign up.
Yeah.
Gotta
That's
make some
the news.
preparations. But come on the retreat, because it's so much fun.
There's no waiting list for that.
And there is no waiting list, and it's so awesome.
This was gonna be good.
And you know, maybe there will be another family tree,
Oh my gosh.
which you will know about if you come on the retreat.
Yeah, that was great.
You want to learn about the family tree.
Yeah, it's great. Good stuff. Yeah, so that's it, I think.
That's it. We're done.
Bye.
Okay, see ya.
Wave.
Oh.
Say bye.